morning. Happy Thursday, everyone, or getting close to the afternoon, depending on where you are in the world today. Welcome to our power panel for August. We're going to be getting started in just a few minutes, but we want to know where you all are calling in from. So if you would please, using that questions box on your dashboard, let us know what state you are dialing in from. We want to hear a big shout out for your state. I myself, I'm in Georgia, Atlanta specifically. I have Michigan on the call, Virginia. Hey, you guys, Kansas. Welcome. We have a couple from Michigan, Arkansas. Ooh, these are flying in. Love it. And I bet, let's see. Oh, Nick is saying he's from Atlanta too, and he's 2 offices down from one of our panelists today. Florida, Virginia, Washington. I love it. California. Hello, California. Love it. We're going to be getting started in just a couple of minutes. We're trying to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to get dialed in and get connected. Brianna is saying she is literally next to Leah, who is one of our other panelists. We have 2 Leahs on this session today. We have Kansas City, Missouri. Welcome. North Carolina, we see you. This is fantastic. If by some chance you do not see your dashboard to where you can dial in or chime in on the state shout out, there should be an orange arrow in the top right-hand corner of your screen. If you click on that, it will expand out your dashboard and you can participate in the state shout out. We have 60 seconds left and we will be jumping on in here for our strengthening relationships more than conflict resolution. I see North Carolina, Virginia, Nebraska. Hello. We see you as well. Welcome, everyone. We're going to be getting started in under 1 minute. So grab your beverage of choice. Kick your feet up, I guess. Have your lunch if you're on the East Coast and it's noon. And we're going to get rolling. All right, we are now at the top of the hour. So again, welcome to everyone who is joining us today. My name is Leah Nicole Smith. I'm the Senior VP of Education and Performance for Apartment Ratings and Satisfax, and this is our monthly power panel. The title of this session is Building Relationships More Than Conflict Resolution, and I am very honored and pleased to have 2 relationship experts on the call today. We have Tynesha Holmes, who is the Director of Customer Relations for Preferred Apartment Communities. Tynesha, say hello to the group.
Hello, everyone.
And we have Leah. We have 2 Leahs. That's never happened before. We have 2 Leahs on the call today. We have Leah Middendorf. She is the Senior Resident Relations Manager for Monarch Investment and Management Group. Hey, Leah.
Hi, everyone. Leah here. I'm excited to be on the call today and chat with you all about building relationships.
Absolutely. So this is, to me, this is I think, one of the most important topics in our industry. I know everyone who is on the call, you all have probably had at some point in your lives, your industry lives, conflict management training. Some even include it in their onboarding, which we're actually going to talk about. So we're going to talk today just sort of how a relations expert plays into not only building relationships among residents, team members, but really adds value to your company as a whole. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping little things. This session is slated for 60 minutes, which includes Q&A. I am recording it. We will send in a follow-up email, the recording. You will also have this PowerPoint deck as well. There is that questions box, which is where you went to do the state shout out. It is always open. Feel free to use it throughout the entire webinar. There's an exit survey. Would love to know your opinion, what you thought of this session. We take all feedback seriously, and we want you to sign up for next month. Next month's webinar, it's always the third Thursday of every month. So that's going to be on September 15th. And each month, we give away a $50 Starbucks gift card. Who does not want a Starbucks gift card right about now? It would come in very handy for Monday, if you will. So I'll show you, talk to you a little bit about how you can win that Starbucks gift card at the end of the session. So we are not going to waste any time. We're going to start talking to our experts. I think I want to go with Leah first. All three of us have had like a couple of calls before we got, this webinar together. So I know a little bit about your background, Tanisha, as well. But can you tell the audience, how you came to be in this relationship role, and maybe like a few of the things that you do on a, everyday basis, the kind of stuff that you're responsible for?
Yeah, definitely. So to start, I've always been a people person. My first job was at age 15 was a bus girl at an Italian restaurant, where I literally had to like excuse myself as I would reach in between guests enjoying their meals to clear their plates. It was intimidating at first, but over the many jobs I've had in the service industry and now the past 7 years in the multifamily industry, I feel like I have a solid understanding of what helps make a great customer service experience from that first interaction with a guest until the very end. But just like everyone, I am constantly growing in my role and still learning new perspectives every day. I started at Monarch Investment as a leasing consultant in 2015. So when the resident relations position was created in 2017, I knew it was an ideal match. I have a fine arts degree, so along with being a people person, I'd say I'm pretty creative. My role allows me to utilize my daily creativity and my passion for customer service. And what started as just me, the department of one has grown to a department of 5, supporting about 178 teams and covering over 70,000 units across the U.S.
Wow.
Yeah. No day, is ever the same. And I really think that's one of the reasons why I wake up every morning super excited to come to work. I truly enjoy working with our management teams, supporting our residents and our on-site teams through training, scenario role play, helping plan our monthly resident events, and overseeing our property's online reputation. So I monitor.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I could go on forever. So.
No problem. Leah, I think we're getting a little bit of an echo. I had a couple people chime in that your audio, there's just a little bit of an echo happening.
I could stand further away, maybe from my computer. Does that help?
Let's see when we get to the next question. Thanks, audience, for letting us know. We'll see if that improves as we go along. Tanisha, your turn. How did I think your role, or how you came to be in your role, is super interesting. So if you would let everyone know your story.
Yes. So my name is Tanisha Holmes, and I'm the Director of Customer Relations here at PAC. I oversee customer service and reputation management for our properties. I monitor progress and establish performance metrics for our reputation websites, as well as monitor resident concern calls that come in from residents at all of our communities. So when a resident calls and they're like, I would like to speak to corporate, that is typically me they're speaking with.
And that never happens, right? Never. Your phone
Right.
never rings.
It never rings, okay? So originally I started off working as a community assistant on site. At that time, PAC had a student housing division called Preferred Campus Management. And I was going through a transition phase and was close to graduation. And I was offered a position here as a receptionist slash administrative assistant, and I took it and ran with it. I just felt like it would be a great learning opportunity, which is exactly what every graduate needs, right? So within that job, I started to just see an area of opportunity. We would receive a lot of calls from parents and residents, and our regional managers would be busy with turn and other things and would be unable to speak with them right away, which is what every resident and parent demands. So after recognizing that, I just felt there was a need for a position that will allow the ability to de-escalate a resident's concerns, and so that someone can speak with them right away and they will be able to get the answers they need in a timely fashion. So from there, I made a job description for myself, and took it to the chief property management officer and executive vice president of the company, Kim Hodge. And she had always been so open to ideas. And although I was very nervous, I scheduled a meeting with her and gave her my pitch, and she loved it. And within 2 to 3 weeks, I was promoted to director of customer relations. So it's a really interesting pathway. People ask me every day, how do I speak to so many people? And, sometimes people were not communicating in the best manner, but I believe my degree in psychology is helping me with that.
I think that's amazing. So Leah's background has a background in sort of like a creative field, an arts background. You have a background in psychology, which is also in a way, very intuitive and creative. And you do, I think for both of you all, you have to be able to think quickly on your feet because no phone call is going to be the same and no resident concern is going to be the same. So I love hearing your stories, both of you, and how interestingly it was that you just sort of kind of came into these roles, but with sort of innate abilities that you brought to the table. So I'm going to launch a poll for the audience. You're going to see it pop up right on your screen. And I just want you to click on true or false. Customers trust you more if they have a problem, receive a speedy solution, than if they weren't to have any problems at all. So, true or false? Is that true that if they have a problem, they get a resolution? It's better in terms of trust than if they just never experienced a problem at all. All right, I got 47% voting, 56. I'm going to get to 75 before we close out this poll. Let's go ahead and close this out. We are now at 75%. And I have 98% of you on the call say absolutely true, 2% say false. The correct answer is true. If they were to have a concern, they bring it to you. You're able to solve that problem for them, or resolve that concern for them. What it does is it makes them trust that the next time they have the problem, you're going to be good. They're going to be able to come to you. And it's not just your external customers. I think the role of a relationships expert brings so much value to a company because you really do support the on-site team members. And here's sort of a thank you. I know Leah and Tynesha, you all receive kudos all the time from your team members, from your internal team members and your external. Tynesha, you submitted this one and you wanted to share this story with the group. So I'll let you have the floor.
Yeah, I just thought it was perfect. And I think it goes with the whole question that you were just referring to about customers trust you more if you have problems and um, problems. And I think this is a great example. This resident was having somewhat of a concern, and Stephanie was able to fix that. And from that, she received an amazing shout out. And she was speedy with her recovery. She wanted to make sure we were able to lease to this resident, and everything was taken care of. So I just thought this would be a great example of how that works out in our favor.
Yeah, absolutely. And you never know when that, it doesn't necessarily have to be a huge, issue. It doesn't have to be, something that's like over the top. It's just being there to have an answer for them. So, knowing that conflict does have the ability to escalate rather quickly. We know that for sure. But what ways does a relationship expert, we saw the kudos from a resident, but how do you provide support to the team members? And Tanisha, I'll let you go because Leah has a great example after, she talks about how they're supporting their on-site teams.
Um, Perfect. So number one, I would say is being available and at reach when there's a concern. We no longer use the name corporate here at PAC. We call ourselves the Property Support Center because we are fully supportive of our on-site teams and whatever they need, whenever they need it. So we like to create an open space to show that we want feedback because our on-site teams are in direct contact with our residents and our prospects as well. I would say a great example of that would be this week we received several calls regarding 60-day notices, and our residents felt like we weren't providing them reminders to, that they needed to provide us a 60-day notice. So, of course, I spoke with the general manager about this, and she was telling me that it wasn't really highlighted when it came to our renewal email. So she wanted to know if we were able to make it stand out and pop a little bit more. And we had no idea this was a problem until we started receiving all these concerns. But just knowing that we were able to make that reminder a little bit more visible so that now our residents are really aware that you have to submit a 60-day notice. I think it's important to just be a liaison and make sure you're backing up your on-site teams. Another example would be like we have committees here where we establish these committees and bring everything to the table. It can relate to customer service concerns, it can relate to maintenance concerns, or whatever is going on. And we're just able to provide an authentic space for all of our associates to come to and be able to share ideas and let us know what's going on. What are the frequent concerns that you're getting at the property? Because they are on the front line. And that customer service testimonial right there, another way that we support our team members is when we receive things like that, we love to highlight that. And we have an intranet where we will allow our teams to be able to post these amazing testimonials so that our entire company can interact and they can see that the Property Support Center is here to fully support you. And we want to provide a healthy and supportive environment for everyone and to just make sure that we're highlighting this great work that our on-site teams are providing us.
I love that property support center. We talk a lot about how, words matter. And I think back in the day, residents were tenants and communities were complexes. And, it was kind of that, sort of colder, terminology. So I love that, sort of like rebranding or rephrasing exactly what the corporate office is there for. I love that. Leah, how about you? What's happening over at Monarch in terms of providing support for the on-site teams?
Okay, can you hear me a little better, everyone?
I think so. Yeah, I think we're good.
Oh, awesome. So, I mean, there are endless ways of how, a resident relations expert can support our on-site teams. With my leasing experience, I definitely understand firsthand, the many hats worn as a frontline team member. And I know that not every day is a walk in the park. As that resident relations expert, we do support our teams through the good, through the bad, and the ugly. When it comes to our positive online reviews and positive resident survey feedback, we focus on giving praise and shout outs via email. It's uplifting for the entire team to read those virtual kudos, and I feel like it helps keep morale high by bringing the spotlight to our employees their hard work and dedication. Everyone loves getting applause, so we definitely like to do that, especially in our remote jobs since we can't be in every state all at once. With the negative situations, we're not one to point fingers or place blame. Instead, we put our energy in and focus on the specifics. We provide direction, suggest ideas for improvement. We collaborate and then help make any recommendations needed so we can present a solution not only for that resident, but it helps us be proactive for anything that may arise in the future. At the end of the day, the success we have as a team and as a community and company is entirely a group effort. And while not everyone has the same strengths or learning styles, learning to adjust to their individual needs and offering guidance the best way to relate to them, I feel goes a long way in supporting our team members, not only as a unit, but individually.
Yeah, I love that both of you guys talked about having like a feedback loop. Like there's always that opportunity to learn from what the on-site teams are experiencing. And there's always that that channel where they can provide feedback that really does help to make changes, even if it's a small tweak like making sure that 60-day notice, Tynesha, is more prominent in a, renewal notice. Or to Leah's point, when they are getting those pats on the backs and the kudos, that it extends further out than just the resident saying, thank you, we really appreciate your help. Leah, you wanted to share this one. It's actually from an on-site manager, kind of, I guess, being grateful or being thankful at the support that they're getting from your team.
Yeah, so this specific community is a newer acquisition. So while I don't know, firsthand experience with a prior management company, I do know that as, the property manager expresses, she feels her and her team just feel the support. There's been, of course, we hear positive and negative feedback. And so by not pointing fingers or placing blame and just having, not only our residents' best interest at heart, but also our employees, that just feels really supportive to them. And it's a great example of what, how we can have those listening ears and just try to adjust and offer, support the best way we know how.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is important to have like that additional support for those escalated situations. But we also know that your on-site teams, with them being on the front line, they're going to get it first, before it gets to the I want to speak to your manager moment or give me the number to your corporate office. So, what kind of after we do this poll, I want you guys to kind of give our audience like either some tips or kind of an inside, look at what type of education is provided for your on-site teams. So everyone, here comes another poll. I'm going to go ahead and launch it. Why do you think it's important to have an effective complaints process? Is it to identify the customers that are unhappy, to limit further damage to your reputation, or to prevent future complaints? Which do you guys think is like it's most important to have like an actual complaints process, to go from on-site to the corporate level? Why is that important to have a good process in place? All right, I am at 50% of the vote. Is it to identify unhappy customers, to limit further damage to your reputation, or to prevent future complaints? Okay, we're at 75%. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And what we have here from the group consensus is to prevent future complaints. Then we have to limit further damage to your reputation, and then to identify unhappy customers. So the actual answer, the most important, honestly, is to make sure that you're limiting future damage to your reputation. Obviously, we can't prevent anyone from being disgruntled or unhappy. There's just no, magic formula, magic cure for that. Identifying your unhappy customers. I mean, I think, to be honest, those surveys are where it's at, any kind of feedback loop that we always talk about. But making sure that, those complaints are resolved before they hit the online forums, whether that's your online reviews, whether that is, stories that your residents are telling other people, any kind of channel that could potentially damage your reputation. So I haven't had any questions for the group just yet. I just want to let you know that the Q&A is open. If you guys have any questions that you'd like for our experts to, help you out with. But Leah, on-site teams, we've all been on-site, all three of us, and we know what that feels like, what that looks like when that resident is right in front of you, or when that resident is right on the phone, even when you get a nasty email that comes across. What kind of training do you all provide your on-site teams in how to just manage through those types of interactions?
Yeah, so aside from all the wonderful online webinars and Grace Hill courses that are offered, Monarch has a phenomenal training department that works in person and virtually. And one thing that we really try to focus on with conflict and how to best manage that would be just really paying attention and hearing what that individual has to say. It's not a my way or the highway approach, and instead it's focusing on listening to understand, not to respond approach. So taking the time to consider all sides of the situation and working not only with that individual who's disgruntled, but with your on-site teams and management and resident relations to find those solutions, help foster a better relationship between that individual and our team. And then of course all those other critical things, such as having positive body language with the individual who's talking, and then of course taking note to their tone or their body language as well. Being that active listener and putting ourselves in their shoes can go far. A lot of times I feel like the resident just wants to be heard, and being able to practice and show those positive body language and just having a open line of communication and being honest and transparent can really go far and helps show the individual that we're not just sweeping the issues under the rug. The same goes with responding to online reviews. In our responses, we want to do that. We're not there to point fingers or tally mark who's right, who's wrong, because it could just be prospects reading our responses as well. So having them see that we are transparent and we will admit fault, and that we're not just sweeping their issues under the rug, just helps build that trust from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really does start with giving them, that level of knowledge where they feel empowered, but then also letting them know, we got your back. If that doesn't work at the front line, there's someone else. Someone else in that chain of command that you can go to. Tynesha, what say you about the education happening at Preferred?
Oh, Leah took the words right out of my mouth, actually. And I was just going to say, we have conflict resolution training based on different scenarios that we provide through our training platform, Grace Hill. We have an amazing trainer here as well. And in addition to that, we encourage our teams to reach out to their AVPs who have more in-depth details when it comes to their region and are able to provide reasonable ways to assist the residents as well. And then we put a strong emphasis on communication. Communication is so key, and I feel like communication can kind of sometimes done the right way. So it's all about communication. We encourage all our communications to go into activity log in our CRM that we use because it creates accountability and it will assist us with making sure that everyone knows what's going on with this resident because it is one thing. I know I get a lot of complaints about this sometimes when a resident calls and they're like, well, no one knows what's going on, but I've told so and so. Don't you hate that? Wouldn't you love to know exactly what's going on with that resident so that you can provide them the information you need? So we do a lot of training on Entrada, making sure that that communication piece is there so that all of our associates know what's going on with our resident and we're able to provide that 5-star service to them as well. One of the things that I like to say is we ask, knowledge, of course, that active listening piece, and offer solutions and alternatives. And if we're unable to offer solutions and alternatives at the property site level, then we inform our AVP so that we can get a speedy recovery and we can make sure to satisfy that resident the best we can.
Okay, all right. So I have a very interesting question, and we've already talked about this beforehand. And so you guys may find that this is different than what we're seeing on our end from our survey results. But on our pre-renewal survey, we ask residents, how likely are you to renew? And if they don't answer very likely, we say, why didn't you answer very likely? And neighbors is one of those options that they can pick. So in the past, it's always trended like 13, 14%. Well, hello, stay at home, hello, pandemic, if you will, in 2020. It shot up to 16%. But since then, it has started to trend down. So to us, and again, might be completely wrong, I don't know, but to us, the data suggests that residents are starting to kind of chill out a little more. And maybe we're not seeing as many, neighbor to neighbor kind of concerns and issues, or maybe the concerns are just sort of directed in another way. Tanisha, I'll start with you. Are you finding that there's less like neighbor to neighbor kind of things that you're fielding? Are they chilling out or are we just, maybe wrong?
Really do not know. This is a great question. I was trying to figure out what I was going to say, and I was like, I have no idea. This is a really interesting question. What I'm thinking is going on is I feel like I can see this being the case because in the climate that we're currently in, we have high rental rates, right? The necessities that we need are really expensive. COVID is still being COVID out there. So there's so many things changing, and I feel like residents are looking for a constant. So they're finding that constant in their homes, and I feel like they're more willing to get along with their neighbors a little bit now, especially with people going through so much at this time. I feel like at all of your communities, at all your homes, you want that sense of community. You want that tranquility. And I feel like this is why it's so important that we have to provide that customer service, that 5-star customer service when it comes to this. But this was a really tough question for me, Leah. I must admit, but I will say that I feel like they're just trying to find a constant and they just want a calm space at this time because there's been so many changes going on in our environment. So they want their homes to be that calm space. They don't want to have to deal with, harsh neighbors or anything like that. Everybody's just on a quiet span at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I can totally see that. And I think it's almost, I think it's one of those shifts where it doesn't happen like in a vacuum. Like it's like the mood, the, empathy that we have towards each other, like the fact that everybody's having like a shared experience creates this big, like, global shift in a lot of ways. Leah, I know when we had talked about this question, you had some pretty interesting points too.
Yeah, so we have properties covering over 20 states, and so it's safe to say that no two properties are the same. With that, I mean, we're individuals, no two people are the same. And I feel like during the beginning of the pandemic, I noticed from a review standpoint, like more grace was given from residents, especially as we were all just navigating like such an unknown and difficult time. While we, can't see into the future and things are still unknown, I think we're just a little bit more, accustomed to the unknown. And with, having just that streamline of communication being at the forefront, I feel like it did help, connect more of that open door policy to some. So, I did see, or I feel like I do see residents a little bit more likely to come to us and our, team with an issue prior to going online right away and sharing, their frustrations with the entire world. But yeah, I feel like in the early pandemic and in current day, individuals do continue to share their unfiltered feedback. And overall, I can't really say that I've noticed a significant change.
Okay, so I'm going to throw this out to the audience. Those of you who are on the call today, using that questions box, what is your, and you can only pick one, for in terms of resident conflict, resident concerns and issues, what's the biggest like pain point for your residents right now? And we're gonna kind of do some shout outs as we get closer to the end, but I want to know from you all, is it still neighbors? Are you finding other things that, are like, they're the pain points, for what your residents are kind of dealing with now? Okay, so these are coming in. This is going to be pretty interesting. I'll read them out to you guys. Tynesha and Leah, I'll read them out to you as we start to close up. So keep those coming because I want to know what's happening. So last poll, I want to know if your company has a dedicated Leah or Tynesha, maybe goes by a different name. Do you all have a dedicated relations expert who is on site? Sorry about that. The poll just jumped. Do you have a dedicated person to handle escalated situations? Like you have an expert who's on site. Click yes or no. All right, we're at 33%. I'm going to get to, I always like to get to 75. I don't know why, but we'll get to 75%. We're at 60. Chime on in, click right on the box, and I still have some resident issues coming in too. Okay, we're at 73%. I'm going to go ahead and close it out. 3, 2, 1. All right, let's close this out. So looking at, we're almost split, 47 and 53. So this is really interesting because I think, Tynesha, you and I spoke first, and you were saying, I have no idea. I haven't met anyone else who's in my space. So it was great to be able to introduce you to Leah and kind of expand, your network of people who are in the same role as you. And Leah, you have a team of 5. Is that correct?
The department is a team of 5. Yep, I have, we're a team of 5. I have 2 direct reports that we, work on the same or, cover many different properties. And then 2 other team members that are on the other side of the United States, but we work as closely together, through communication and teams and brainstorming collaboration as we can.
Okay, so Leah, if someone was considering having a relationships expert kind of position, like let's create this for our company, let's add this to our, company sort of structure, what do you think are the kind of skills and experience that would, really make for an ideal candidate? Like, what should they be looking for?
I think it comes down to definitely being a real people person. Being a people person is huge. If you're not genuinely interested in helping people, it definitely would not be or may not be the right position for you. I think that someone who is present, regularly, engages in conversation and has heart goes far. In this role, you have to be open to what others say, definitely being able to, practice, listening and empathy and be willing to adapt to all situations. We help develop those strong problem solving skills with our teams, and by working together, it helps us strengthen the relationships that we have with our residents, and that helps improve the communication and builds trust. So I think just being a human and a real people person is key.
Yeah, I like that. And I love this picture, being like cool under pressure. It's definitely not a position that's for everyone. And Tynesha, you made this a position. You created this position within your company structure. So what do you think are those kind of skills that an ideal person would bring to this role?
Oh my. So I would say someone who has one empathy and sympathy, empathize and be empathetic with anyone that they're on the phone with. I think I've been that way all of my life. Just like Leah said, you have to be a people person, but you can't be a people person if you don't have empathy and sympathy. So definitely someone that has those two qualities. Someone who can be a great active listener and has excellent communication skills. And then also someone who has a really great closing ability. And when I say that, I mean someone who can end the conversation with the resident being satisfied. And if they're not satisfied, because you might not be able to assist them all the way, you might not be able to provide them exactly what they want, but could still be satisfied with the way the situation was handled. So that would be some I feel like would be great in this position. My coworker actually, she explained it best. She's like, in order to do this job, you have to be a sponge, basically. So you have to take all of this information in and like be able to listen to all the things and not let it bother you, because sometimes we have residents who may be irate in a situation, but you have to be able to suck all of that in and actively listen and not get upset, because it's not towards you, it's towards the situation. And then you have to actually let it all out. So let all that water out and be able to fix the problem. So yeah, I feel like those would be the ideal qualities I would look for in a customer relations expert.
Okay, I love all of those points. And so again, if any of you are like, potentially considering, I mean, you might be that ideal person. Leah and Tynesha have great examples of how these roles just grew out of, them already being, at their companies. I'm looking at the comments that we have, and when I was asking what are the major pain points for your residents right now, I see rental increases. That is like a common thread. Some people are saying that neighbors are still an issue for residents. Maintenance, because they're so hard to find right now. Having, those open positions, those are big things. Someone chimed in common courtesy. And so that, I mean, obviously that can be the impetus for a lot of, resident internal resident to resident kind of issues that are happening. But I'm seeing a lot that are financially motivated with the rental increases, maybe workforce staffing with maintenance. Those are kind of coming into play as well, because obviously when you're short staffed, your teams aren't able to carry out service requests quickly for the residents. And then I see a couple in here that are about negative reviews. Those are, and I know Tynesha and Leah, you guys both handle negative sort of online reviews and complaints with residents as well. There is a question, and I want to throw this out to the group before we close out. There's a question that's asking here, when complaints make it to your desk, how do you resolve directly with the resident without overstepping the on-site team and giving the resident the impression that the next time they could just bypass the on-site team and go directly to you? So, obviously, they don't want to hear from the person that they see every day. They want that let me talk to your manager moment. How do you guys, is there anything that you could offer up to the group to that will prevent, just sort of bypassing the on-site team the next time? Who wants to take that first?
Well, I could.
Oh, go ahead.
No, okay. Well, for me personally, or for us in our role, we aren't actually on site. So I am, for all residents could know, is I could be a robot, but I'm definitely not. So everything is through email, on the phone, or I guess if and when I'm on site for resident events, I do get to communicate with those residents, and there are times where they will just spill everything to me, and I am that great listening ear for them, and I'm a different face for them. So I think whether it's them hoping that I'm going to tell them something different than what they've been told before, or they just want to be heard, and I'll practice that great listening, but then let them know that apologize for their frustrations, let them know that our team do put our residents first, and that we want to know of their concerns right away so we can work on finding a solution. So definitely keeping that streamlined communication, but also kind of being that communication bridge gapper between the resident and the our on-site teams. I feel like does kind of just not only help the situation because that individual can kind of cool down, be calm, be collected, but it also helps us be able to get all the information that we need and work together to find a solution. So there will be times where I'll respond if it's a situation communicated through email. I'll acknowledge their them as a person, apologize, and let them know that I'm going to take step X, Y, and Z to figure out a solution, and then I will reach out when as soon as I can, and then I follow. I stick to my word and I follow through, and then if it's something that management or the on-site team have helped provide the answer for, I can be the one to communicate, but then I'll also let them know, that individual know, hey, I'm here for you and I'll remain available to you, but our team is also here for you, and if at any point you can't get a hold of someone or you're feeling frustrated, feel free to reach out. But together, we are a team. So even though I'm in one spot and our site teams are on site, we still, just work together.
Yeah, I think that's important to present a united front. And Tynesha, how do you kind of close out an issue, or as you're doing the resolution of an issue, to where the resident still knows to go to the on-site team first and not bypass them because they have direct access to you or your corporate office?
Question, because I do get that. I do get that a lot. So typically, if I get a call, I never want to step over our on-site. Our on-site teams work so hard, and typically what they're stating to the resident is true. So I always certify that with the resident. Sometimes they just need a little bit of a deeper explanation, and I'm willing to provide that to them. But one thing that I like to do when closing is to let them know, like, hi, this is the general manager's email. If you do proceed to have any type of concerns, would be happy to address it with you. So you would most likely want to reach out to the actual leasing office there because they're hands on with you. You can speak with someone in person and they'll be able to rectify any type of concerns that you're having. But that is something that I see, and I like to always support all teams. So when a concern comes in, um, always going to listen, of course, because they're upset. And they call me a master de-escalator. So usually when they call, they're very, very upset or very angry. I'm able to kind of take that down a couple of notches. And then I will typically certify, like, what the leasing office is telling you is correct. Unfortunately, that is not something we are able to do. We try to accommodate when we can, the best that we can. But if you have any further concerns, please reach out to the general manager who is able to assist you. So that's typically how I deal with that.
Yeah, I think all of those, I mean, what I heard from both of you is, provide that united front, that
Mhm.
support. I think probably I would say majority of us who have ever worked on site before, we've probably had a situation where you got a different, maybe, the resident got a different result by going above your head. And that tends to be really, such a letdown for you because it's like, I know what I'm doing. Why didn't you back me up? So I think it's great to know that, you guys find that that's really important to provide that backup for your teams on site. I do have a couple of questions that are coming in, but I'm going to do quick kind of takeaways, and then we will talk about the social media contest and then field that last question. So just everybody remember that, conflicts, yes, not fun, not a great part of our job, but we do want to look at them as like an opportunity to build those relationships, and resolving those conflicts does lend to trust. I know that there's somebody who can field my concern, resolve my concern, and as a resident or even as an employee, you have employees who have, concerns as well. I'm going to be more trusting in the future to be able to go to, those people, or express that I'm having, issues. I think both of you, again, expressing that support for the on-site teams and how important it is to have a defined escalation process. And from day one, that onboarding, so education for everyone, education for the teams, education for the residents. Like, this is who you contact when you have an issue, or for the on-site teams, this is how you handle those kinds of, conflicts. And both of you mentioned the word communication again, and the reason that you two are on the call, leave it up to the experts when it gets to a point where, as the front line, you do need to bring in someone. Having those experts who are already skilled, already trained, have that level of empathy and sympathy and awareness to be able to handle, those concerns is really, really important. So, for those of you who would like to participate in our giveaway, 1 hour after the webinar, we're going to post a special comment, a special post to social media. We want you to like the post and then comment with your biggest takeaway. You have until 5 o'clock Pacific today, which is 8 o'clock if you're on the East Coast like me. And we are going to be picking someone to get a $50 Starbucks gift card. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but if you like Starbucks, they're starting their pumpkin spice campaign in August instead of the end of September. So you don't have to wait. You can go get your pumpkin spice starting next week. So the one question that I have, I think there was just one outstanding question. Let's see. What do you guys think? And I'll start, Tynesha, with you. what is your like biggest key de-escalation skill? Like how do you get someone to, just sort of calm down? Like what's your best practice if you could impart anything on with someone who's on the front line?
Um, that's a really great question. So I would say let them get it all out. I do not interrupt. I make sure that I let them know that I'm listening. So typically, you will hear me say yes or okay, I got that, or just making sure that they understand that I am actively listening. Because sometimes, well, if you're on the front line, and you're actually there, they can kind of see that. But me, I'm on the phone, so I'm not on the front line, and so I have to make sure that they understand that okay, I'm actively listening and I'm taking in all of this information. I never ever interrupt. So when they get on the phone with me and they tell me their name, and they say, I have a concern, I say, yes, I'm listening. And from there, they just go. They can be talking for 45 minutes and I'm still listening without interruptions. So I think that that helps because they're able to get everything out at one time, and then you're able to chime in.
Okay, okay. Leah, what about you? What do you think is like a really good de-escalation skill that either our on-site teams can use, or whether that's by phone or in person?
Yeah, so I mean, Tynesha really nailed it. Just having that, being an active listener goes far. It's easier maybe for us over the phone to listen to someone for 45 minutes than being on site, because other people are there and can interrupt, or the phone rings. So just having that active listening is key. But of course, being empathetic and non-judgmental is really important. So that person, they're in distress, and the last thing they would want is to have their, feelings to not be validated. So respect their feelings at hand, and just really thinking of their feelings. So at the end of the day, we're all people. It kind of goes that golden rule: treat others the way you want them to treat you.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I learned about, like, it's different obviously if you have them on the phone or if you're answering back an angry email, those kinds of like hands off type of interactions, if you will. I think one of the biggest skills that I learned if you're face to face is to really think about meta communication. And meta communication is everything other than your voice. So it would be your body language, your eye contact, the way you tilt your head, are you slumping your shoulders? And so looking at those like nonverbal cues, and being very aware of those nonverbal cues when you have someone right in front of your face, is super important. And over the phone, I think one of the biggest skills that I learned was the power of the mute button because the mute button, you don't hear the heavy sigh like here we go again, or you don't, it's an easy way for you to just ensure you're not interrupting. You're letting them, Tynesha, to your point, get it all out. And then that silence that they're getting coming from you, Leah, to your point, does demonstrate, at least over the phone, that active listening, because there is no background chatter, there is no like typing on the keyboard or whatever whatnot that people could kind of pick up over the phone. So the mute button for me, if you have them on the phone, I think in person it would be meta communication, so all those nonverbal skills. And then if you're answering by email, or if you're responding to a negative review, either have someone else read it before you hit send, or you put it in Word and sit on it for a minute so that you can kind of clear it up, clean it up, make sure the tone is okay. It's so hard to get messaging right when it's just black and white, letters on a screen. But, taking those kinds of extra little steps can maybe, help de-escalate situations, or at least not fan the flames. That's kind of always what I've been told or taught to do. So I am just going to double check to make sure we don't have any other questions, because I don't want to leave anyone else out. Okay, no other questions. So with that, Tynesha, thank you so much for being on this call.
Thank you. Thank you. I've enjoyed myself.
And Leah, thank you. Another Leah finally on the call. Thank you for being on as well.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed myself.
All right, everyone. So again, be on the lookout for our follow-up email. I will be sending the recording. I will also send the slides. Participate in our social media giveaway, and don't forget to sign up for next month. So thanks again, everyone. Have a fantastic Thursday. The weekend is almost upon us, and we will be in touch shortly. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.